Hello, sorry. No, hello, welcome, and sorry. I don't know why that's so hard, boys. I'm batting like 95% on that. I need to up those numbers.
I
Hello,
think you're lower.
welcome, and sorry.
I think you might be like 85.
Yeah, probably closer to
We gotta
85.
replace. We gotta replace Jora Forest. Let's get rid
But
of.
but do we also count the person when he messed me up there? That I feel like that wasn't
Yeah,
my fault.
that's like that. That's like a athlete complaining because the crowd is too loud.
That's
Yeah, I
true.
sound like Rory McIlroy. True. Okay. Well, welcome back, everybody. Happy Friday. This is the Maple Bitcoin Friday stream, live stream. I'm Jora. I'm joined by my good buddies here, Rajat and Forrest. And we got a good show in store today. This one's titled The World is Sprinting Towards Hard Assets. So we're going to talk about a couple different topics today. We might get into some of the core versus not. It's a big day today in Bitcoin. The version 30 of Bitcoin Core was released. But we're going to spend a lot of time talking about hard assets and the fiat debasement trade that's happening right now as everybody trades their savings accounts in for hard assets like gold and Bitcoin. And we see gold dripping. So, and then of course, at the end, like we always do, we're going to have some time for Q&A, hopefully. So if you do have any questions in the meantime, you can throw it in the chat with some caps and we'll try our best to get to them. And on your way in, make sure you press the like if you're just showing up for the live now. And if you're watching this later, give us a thumbs up here because we need this to be spread. So, boys, where do you want to begin here? Should we start with maybe something easy, the core versus knots? How are you guys feeling about this today? Is Bitcoin dead?
Yeah, Bitcoin's not dead. I've actually been looking at the mempool, looking for large op returns. Have not seen them yet. Have not seen them in the mempool. Have not seen them in the blocks. Yeah, I mean, I imagine eventually they'll exist, but I think it's like there has to be a use case, which is again super weird that like the defaults were blown open when there's no use for them supposedly. So they're just allowing that to now be a use case. But I think that still takes time to develop. But there's cheaper ways to input data. So why would people use op return is kind of the question there. I don't know. It's all when you start, it becomes like circular thinking when you start looking into this too much, I think.
Agreed.
But yeah, I mean, nothing's happened. I don't expect, I mean, a lot of people expect this is going to be like the death blow of Bitcoin. I think there is no way that this is the death blow of Bitcoin. I disagree with a lot of people that I highly respect and know personally, all sorts of things. But I just, yeah, disagree with that aspect of it, that this is the death blow of Bitcoin. But I think that this isn't also Core 30 being released isn't the end of this either. I think there will be talks of, I think now it's going to go to talks of soft forks, which will be even more contentious and interesting, I think, actually.
Yeah, I was actually just listening to a good, who was it? Oh, it was Walker, the Bitcoin podcast with NBK on there. He's actually, the one takeaway I got from that is because, I went a couple months without really saying too much on it, and people were starting to accuse me of being a fence sitter. So, I had to start talking about it a little bit. But going off of what NVK was talking about there, he basically said, like, you don't have to do anything. Like, there's this narrative between core and knots that you have to make this big decision about what you're going to do. But in reality, like, Bitcoin by design is meant to be moved, meant to move very slowly. And I think the default for anybody right now should just be simply to do nothing. Like, core 28, core 29, if you're still running those, like, you're fine. There's no major vulnerabilities in Bitcoin right now that need to be addressed, need to be updated for. And that's kind of how I said too, even though I did update my core to knots. I just think that there's no rush. You should never be any sort of rush to update anything in Bitcoin, whether it's your node, whether it's a wallet, whatever device, firmware, anything like that. You should always take some time because nothing's made to move fast in Bitcoin.
That's the case with every software. You should not be updating right away as the update comes up. Like, yeah, they've tested it in a a sandbox before they release the update, so there's no bugs as far as they can tell. But when something hits the real world, it's it's hard to model that. So there could still be bugs with any updates. So you want to be slow to update anything, in my eyes. And the other thing too, like I kind of understand the idea of like, oh, not updating, because the truth of the matter is you running knots is not going to change somebody else running core 30 and allowing 100 byte op returns. yes, like the minuscule impact you'll have if you're not a miner is that you're not relaying that to the other nodes in the
Right.
network that you're connected to. But the network is so fast and the connections are so fast that they're going to get those transactions anyway if their default is open to them, because they're connected to other peers and those peers are connected to other peers. Like it's an immediate like mesh the way the network happens. So it's a minuscule effect you have if you're not a miner.
Technically speaking, I think
Yes.
a lot of people started running knots to kind of just send a signal to
100%.
core.
Which is
So-
effective to some degree.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's we've seen that it hasn't been that effective, but they've changed it so that the default change of data carrier size is not deprecated anymore. Like that's like a tiny little clerical change maybe, but still, I mean, that's only happened because of people being upset about it. Does that mean anything? Not really, but again, like, yeah, there's only so much effect you can have as an individual in Bitcoin, and
Yeah.
that's by design.
Yeah.
That's by design.
I think that if Bitcoin is going to survive, it has to be able to get over these things. Otherwise, it won't survive, right? It's gonna die. I mean, I think that the world has enough good actors, people who actually want positivity for the future and they want to build for the future, that I think Bitcoin will go down that path that's right for humanity. And I think that people have a good enough bullshit detector that they can see that what core is doing. I mean, I saw a post. Was it Nick Szabo? I think he was saying how this isn't something that they asked the community about. They basically told the community. So Bitcoin is supposed, like, Andreas Antonopoulos is the first person I heard saying this. He says Bitcoin is rules without rulers. What's happening here is they're I think core is trying to change this system into a system of rulers who create rules, and that's where it's headed with what we're going through right now. So with Bitcoin Core version 30, if they what is it, deprecate that feature for filters for op return, is that what it is? Yeah. So if they get rid of that filter, then they're forcing their will on other people, and I don't think that's the way that Bitcoin is going to go. Even if go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, deprecating means that like future updates beyond this one will plan to remove it.
Yes.
So that in a way is sort of a forcing function. However, like they'll argue like you're never forced to update, right? Like you can run version 26 or 24 of Bitcoin Core, but people aren't running version 1 of Bitcoin Core. So it's not really true that you can't update. There's just a grace period before being able to update.
Yeah, and I feel like Bitcoin has that. I think Bitcoin has a foundation of people who truly want good for the world, and they're not going to allow Bitcoin to be used for things other than money. And those are the node runners, right? And over time, I think because the node runners truly believe in this thing and they very likely own it, they're not going to want to do something that harms the network.
Agreed.
I hope so. I mean, the counter to that again would just be like, we do need to stay vigilant, because there could be people that are not like the way you've described, that have infiltrated and are pretending to be that and purposefully changing small things to just start the slippery slope towards Bitcoin being another crypto. That's sort of the broader argument on the not side, and I don't know how to fix that. Like I don't think there's a magic bullet here with any of this stuff, and I don't think there's a death blow either with
Agreed.
Bitcoin Core. So like with both of that, there's so much gray area, there's so much nuance, there's so much like, what can you do as an individual, what should we do as a community? It becomes like this much bigger, broader discussion that takes years, I think, to really like have a concrete understanding of where to go and what to do. And I think people want like an answer right away. And I think a lot of people just think, oh, well, the answer is just switching to knots. And I'm not sure it is. I think the answer is having very usable options beside, not just one option, because this is an open source project. You have consensus rules. If your software complies with consensus rules, it'll work. Like beyond that, there could be bugs as well. But like, knots is basically core with added patches. So this was like literally when this started coming out, like in the spring of this year, my first thing was like, I think that we need decentralization around who holds Bitcoin, who mines Bitcoin, and the implementations of being able to run Bitcoin. We need decentralization across the board. So
100%.
it's great to me that there is an option like knots. Does that mean that everybody should run knots? No, I don't think so. I think we should have the ability to run different implementations. And maybe knots is right for you, and having that control over your mempool might make sense. And that might be important if there is, so you're not as complicit around what you've done your best, even if it ends up being ultimately ineffective to filter things out. You've done your best as you can as a node runner, which might be important at some point.
And keep in mind that even if you're running core 29 right now and you don't update, you're still going to be doing your best to not put that into your mempool filter. So I think you guys both made some great points there. I think that I would agree with all of them. I don't think I have any rebuttals against that. I think that this whole thing has actually been a very net positive for Bitcoin, in my opinion. I think we've seen the sides of some people, even though it got a little, messy and chaotic at some points. I think it's good to not really trust a certain person or a certain group of people. It should all just be based on the best for the network. And I think that the one thing that this has done, it's made a lot of people run a node who weren't running a node before. And when we think back to the block size wars, that's what that whole war was about, is people like us being able to actually run nodes and have a say in the direction of the network. And I feel like we got a huge, this thing, whether it's detrimental or meaningless, it got a huge wave of new people running nodes. And that's a really good thing for Bitcoin.
Huge win for Bitcoin and for Bitcoiners too, because they're taking a step towards more sovereignty as an individual.
Yes.
And if you're not connected to your own node, you've never really used Bitcoin. You've just allowed other people to use Bitcoin for you, and you own Bitcoin, but like you've never interacted directly with the Bitcoin network like you do when you run your own node. It's a powerful thing. It might be subtle for people, but it ends up being pretty powerful to not have to ask somebody else, even though it's incredibly easy to ask to use somebody else's node, but you don't have to when you run your own node. And I think a lot of people have understood that throughout this. They've started running their own node. They're figuring out, okay, well, what else can I do with this? I'll run my own instance of mempool. If I'm using Start9 or Umbrel, click of a button, it runs on top of your node. Okay, I'll run a Lightning channel. Now I have my own self-custody Lightning, where it's so easy to do custodial Lightning. But custodial Lightning, not your keys, not your coins, right? So like, it's so powerful to be able to run your own node and just easily add in all the additional things that are really useful as a Bitcoiner. I think it's been a huge unlock for me personally, and I know dozens of people that now run nodes because of the debate with Bitcoin Core and knots.
Love it. Oh, we got some great folks in the chat today. I see over on Nostr. Did yours work, Forrest, over on Nostr?
No, I'm going to need your help with that. I couldn't get it to work.
That's okay. You've given me help in a lot of areas, so it's time for me to help you back. But we do have Letha over there in the Zap stream. I should probably tell people that we're live on Nostr right now, but Letha's up 9,000 sats for the boys.
Wow.
So thank you, Letha. And $9,000 in the future. If you would like to support throughout the show here, a good idea, to make sure your comment or your question gets highlighted here, you can send a zap to the QR code beside Rajat's head, or you can type it in manually there and it'll show up on the screen here. Or you can go over to the Nostr chat like Letha did and zap a fatty for Fat Zap Friday here on the Friday stream of Maple Bitcoin. So let's go to, let's shift gears here a little bit, boys. I think that horse has been beat hard enough. But gold all-time high, $4,000. How are you guys feeling about that?
It's assets all-time high, basically. Yeah. Like, we're slightly off the top right now with some tariff news and some political BS that is ultimately going to just be a blip in history here. But yeah, I mean, this is the great debasement trade. This is the understanding that the dollar's collapsing, that you need scarce finite assets. And gold is catching a massive bid from central banks around the world because they understand it. They have people that can acquire it, store it. They have all the infrastructure to do that, and they need to not be tethered so directly to an asset that's controlled by a foreign adversary type government, like bonds, right? Like, America's not winning friends right now with some of their trade policies. Why would you, as a foreign government that is sort of in negotiation with the tariffs and all this stuff, want to then hold those assets, like support that government by holding their assets? Doesn't really make sense. So the first answer to that is gold, right? And then it goes beyond that. Okay, what else besides gold, right? Eventually, it becomes that. But yeah, gold's catching a bid from that exact scenario.
The only reason why people, I think one of the only reasons why people really want gold, it's not because of the industrial uses, not because of any of that. They're just using it as a savings vehicle, right? And if now we have digital gold in Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is so much better than gold, and I think the world is still behind. I think we're still so early. People really haven't figured it out. I think a more effective way to say it is that gold is physical Bitcoin, because you can't do the only thing that Bitcoin is lacking is its industrial uses. In any other way, it's better as money. It's more secure. Let's say, for example, if you wanted to take gold across borders, how would you take it? You can't. So is it fair that your wealth is just stuck in one place? Right.
You know what else is funny about this is, like, gold is catching this bid from central banks, but like retail is now jumping into it as well, and institutions and all this, right? They're saying, okay, well, I'm going to buy some of this because it's going up, right? And what are they going to rotate into? Like, they're now in the concept of a debasement type trade. It's probably like people are like trading gold like it's an altcoin right now.
Yeah,
like I think this ends up being good for Bitcoin. Like, retail that makes some profit from their gold trade, like GLD, right? They buy GLD, goes up, they sell it. They're going to rotate part of that into Bitcoin, probably, like a big portion of it.
Everything is good either for Bitcoin or Bitcoiners. Like I saw this post a couple of days ago from Chris Johnson. I don't know if you know him, but he said how these two people, he posted a picture of Sam Bankman-Fried and the girl. What was her name?
Oh shoot, Caroline Ellison.
Yeah, that was her.
Caroline.
So he posted a picture of both of them, and he was like, "These two are the reason why I have so much Bitcoin today. Because if they weren't who they were, then Bitcoin would be way higher right now." Right, because it would just be held by FTX. It would be the Bitcoin. It would be held by FTX if FTX didn't make those stupid mistakes.
They didn't have any Bitcoin. Dummies. Sorry? FTX didn't even have any Bitcoin.
Yeah, they were. What did they do? They gave it to They gave it to Alameda.
Desk. Yeah, Alameda Research.
So if we go back to gold here, everything is good for Bitcoin. Either it goes down and Bitcoiners get to buy and it gets redistributed, and that's good for Bitcoin as a foundation, or it goes up and it gets redistributed and it's bought by more people, and again they build a stronger foundation. And it just builds on top of what's already been there. Everything that's already built is just being built on top of stronger and stronger and stronger. So it doesn't matter what the short-term changes in Bitcoin are. It doesn't matter what the short-term changes in gold are, in stocks, in real estate. Over time, what I truly believe is that all of this wealth is going to eventually rotate into Bitcoin, and there's 100%. and part of that is never going to be taken back out.
Yeah,
a quick little part of it, I think.
Yeah, quick little side tangent about FTX. Can you imagine, like, they have all of the trading data of everybody on their platform, FTX, and they still lost money with their own trading firm, even with all of that data. Like, how bad of a criminal enterprise do you have to be to screw that up? Like, you could literally just be the in-between of those trades and just like siphon off capital. Like, it's crazy. It's so embarrassing, actually.
Do you think that the people themselves actually were smart enough to take out some Bitcoin out of that whole thing?
Which people?
Well, like Bankman Fried and whatever her name was, Catherine, and all those dipshits. Like they had to have actually scraped some out from the corporation or whatever they're doing there. I don't think they're that dumb.
Maybe. Yeah,
I don't
maybe.
know. Who knows?
But keep in mind, some people
did seem
truly
pretty
do
dumb.
believe. Some people do truly believe in shitcoins.
Yeah.
Like they actually believe in them, and they'll fight. They'll fight against anybody who says anything against them, and they'll do whatever they can to not own Bitcoin. So maybe they were like that, because if they're taking these levels of debt to buy shitcoins, then I mean, they clearly think that they can outperform against Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, yeah, they must have just been like, they probably were levered up themselves too and got wrecked in the 2022. Because like, I know Bankman was a big proponent of like Solana. He was like telling people while he was in like general pop jail about Solana and stuff. And it's like, Solana took a big nose dip, but it went back up too. So like, even like some shit coins are like, they're not okay, but like you can do okay having held them in that time period, nominally. So I don't know. It's crazy to me that these people have really screwed up that much.
But even with that, like with Solana, for example, the coins are just a way. They're just, what is it called? Is it an affinity scam?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
like a piggybacking to Bitcoin. Yeah,
right. So like what's happening with Solana is the prices remain the same over the last 4 years, but the market cap has doubled. What that means is that 50% of the coins that exist today are created since the last top.
Oh yeah.
So why would you want to own that thing? Why would you want to own it? It doesn't
It's
even
just
make
as bad as fiat. It's the same thing as fiat with that. Like there's no cap. There's no. I mean, there's a central organization that is all benefiting from the issuance of that, essentially, to some degree. Yeah, it's crazy. It's ridiculous. It's just hard for me to understand like how somebody had that much information, could literally bet on almost anything, and still lose to such a massive degree. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you guys this, because we're going to be talking about Bitcoin and gold. We had a nice little chart here that we're going to demonstrate for everybody with some explanations on it. But were you guys into like precious metals before Bitcoin?
No.
Not really. I had some, but I wasn't really like into it. It was more so like gifted to me, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. See, I was when I first learned about how broken the monetary system was. This was back in 2019 or 2020, kind of that era. And I probably spent about 6 months just in precious metals. I was buying as much silver as I possibly could. A little bit of crypto in there. I was kind of in the crypto precious metals diversification strategy. And then, of course, 4 or 5 years later, both those merged into one thing called Bitcoin. And I just feel like that might be the case with the world right now. There's a lot of people who are believing in precious metals. Silver's hitting all-time highs. Gold, crypto, even some cryptos are hitting all-time highs. You got pundits on the TV still talking about crypto. But eventually all those roads diverge, and it usually ends up in one path, which is Bitcoin. So yes, gold's running today, but I just feel like it's the same kind of process happening now where everybody's on that track, but they're all going to be merged. It's like two trains heading down two different tracks, and they get merged into one, which is Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a combination really of the properties of gold and silver mixed with the properties of cryptography, essentially. So both of those combined into Bitcoin. And then usually once you're on that track, you never get off there. You're not jumping into something else. You're just kind of heading down that track for forever for a lot of people, I think. Rajat mentioned that they'll hold some of it, but I think once you get into Bitcoin, once you understand Bitcoin, you're probably not going to sell more than like 5 or 10% unless there's an absolute emergency in your life, which is crazy to think about in terms of like the scarcity aspect of Bitcoin, which we're going to touch on here in a second.
Yeah. You know what? It does feel like there's been a massive shift, though, in public perception of Bitcoin with this whole debasement. Like, again, I think we talked about this before, but like the term fiat wasn't used. Now it's used because of Bitcoin. And now the debasement trade and Bitcoin is getting more and more correlated in people's minds, not necessarily the charts, which, you can argue or whatever, like gold leads and then Bitcoin falls, all this kind of stuff, right? But like, the people that are into charts, people that are like TradFi, a lot of them just think of Bitcoin as like the triple NASDAQ. Like it's just NASDAQ plus. That's how they think about it. It's just a tech play. They don't conflate it and connect it with something like gold, which is connected to debasement and sound money. But now people are like, this is the main talking point on CNBC and Bloomberg and all sorts of stuff. And it's like that connection, I think, is much more positive for like what Bitcoin is. Like Bitcoin, in a very simplistic way, can be described as digital gold. And from there, if you start with that as your starting point, you can begin to understand, okay, well, there's mining, there's issuance, there's max supply, there's difficulty adjustment. And that gives you a much broader understanding of Bitcoin than, oh, it's just a tech play. It's just another technology. It's blockchain. And then conflating it with all these other cryptos, and it's conflating it with the NASDAQ performance and everything. So it's like, I think that starting point of digital gold, although I think is generally not an accurate way to describe Bitcoin, is a much better starting point to begin to understand Bitcoin in its full extent.
That's a great point.
Did you guys see the video of Christine Lagarde?
Yeah.
Where she was like, oh, Bitcoin it's worthless. And there was one point where she was like, I'm going to back your euros.
Yeah. The other thing,
crazy to me. Oh, it just made me think like, oh, she truly wants to control the world.
Yeah, she said Bitcoin has no intrinsic value, which is hilarious. There is no such thing as intrinsic value. All value is subjective. And then she said something about like not fearing Bitcoin, and it was almost like a projection. Like it was like she was like coming out of
Bitcoin. I remember that.
Yeah, I don't fear Bitcoin, and it's like people sometimes will like say what they actually feel, but like in a defensive way. You know, it's like I think they actually do fear Bitcoin because they can't control it, and because people are waking up and realizing, and like, sure, it's a small percentage of the population, but the population that's adopting Bitcoin does not care about what the European Union does with their currency. Like they literally, like, it does not matter. They know that they control their own money. They have self-custody of it, and it doesn't matter what this other entity does. So I think they actually do fear it, and it was like sort of a projection outwards of what internally is actually going on for her.
Yeah. Hey, Jor, have you seen the video?
No. You want to show it?
Would you guys want to share it? I have it in the link. If Jor, if you want to share it on your screen.
Sure. This is Lagarde.
Yeah. This is actually a really good video. It shows you that, okay, these people are acting like it's like bluffing in poker, right? You want everybody to believe that what you have is the best, and everybody should continue to believe, or everybody else should fold because you're being all aggressive. But in reality, you have the shittiest cards, and that's exactly what's happening here.
Yeah, the art of war says appear weak when strong.
Yes.
But these guys are trying to appear strong when actually weak, I feel like.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I meant by projection.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take a look at this. This is the right one?
Yeah, this is the one.
Yep.
Okay. I'll speed it up a bit here just for shits and giggies. I don't like listening to these people more than I need to.
You mentioned that it's that you think that it has no intrinsic value, which I personally do not agree.
When you were as a guest on College Tour 3 years ago, I asked you what you think of cryptocurrency and Bitcoins, and this is what you had to say at the time.
I actually have a son who invested in cryptos, yes. So I follow very carefully.
And what have you taken away from that?
That I would not put my finger in there. I've said all along that crypto assets are highly speculative, very risky assets. I'm concerned about those people who assume that it's going to be a reward, who have no understanding of the risks, who will lose it all, and who will be terribly disappointed, which is why I believe that should be regulated. My very humble assessment is that it is worth nothing. It's based on nothing. There is no underlying assets to act as an anchor of safety. If the day when we have the central bank digital currency out, any digital euro, I will guarantee. So the central bank is behind it. And I think that's vastly different from any of those things. I could repeat exactly the same thing.
Really? Yeah. I'm just asking because do you know the value of the Bitcoin then? This is in May 2022.
I know.
But just to tease you a little bit, we got the graph. This is the graph.
Yeah.
So this is, let me point it out, this is like May 2022 when we spoke to you. 35,000, I think, for one Bitcoin, and now it's over 100,000. So your son, is he crying all the way to the bank with his crypto?
He doesn't want to talk to me about these things anymore. He was very upset that I spoke about him.
Really?
Yeah.
He's a true Bitcoiner.
So you have no idea where he is right now.
That's crazy. That's interesting.
To invest in whatever they want to invest. But all I'm saying here, and I repeat it, is that there is no underlying value to it. It may well be that it prospers. It may well be that it lasts forever, but it may well be that it collapses as well. It's a risk, but as long as you are aware, you are informed, you know that it could go down, you know that it could go up. That's your decision. But I'm not giving investment advice anyway. This is not going to do that.
Hi, I'm Jordi, and I study economics. And I want to get back on your remarks about cryptocurrency. You mentioned that that you think that it has no intrinsic value, which I personally do not agree.
So what is the value of it?
I think, especially in current environments we're living now with inflation.
How much is inflation now?
And now it's quite good, but in the COVID times,
Thank
it's
you.
Can you pause it? Can you pause it?
Just to say for the people who don't know, I think 2%,
Sure.
a little bit more in the.
Can you pause it?
Latest reading in August.
Did you see how proud she was of 2% inflation?
Yeah. We're
Which
only
is also a
stealing
biggest
2% from
scam
you.
ever.
That's wild to me. She's so proud of it. She's like, oh, it's 2%. It was 9%. Oh, we started stealing less from you, so you should be happy. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, and that was her gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, we brought inflation down to 2%. That's great.
Yeah. And she
We're
was so
stealing
proud
less
of
from you
herself.
now.
Oh, man.
Yeah, jeez. I love that they had the Bitcoin graph right behind her head, the chart of Bitcoin.
Dude,
Yeah.
that dude was roasting her, man.
Okay, should we finish?
Yeah,
Yeah,
finish it.
let's finish it.
A bit more in the Netherlands.
In the
yeah,
Netherlands,
yeah.
it's 3.3 and going up. So you're going to say that you
It has
think
gone down
Bitcoin is a
massively,
better. How many do you have, Bitcoins?
Well, I'm not going to give you a number, but it's more than 90% of my portfolio. So,
Okay. So the question is?
So can Bitcoin be like a digital form of gold?
Okay.
No.
That's the final answer, right? Shall we
I
leave
mean,
it?
I hesitate to say that, but I say it because I have no fear, because I know that the social media
fear?
tonight and tomorrow is going to hit me like crazy, because that's the community they form, and that's the belief that they have, and that's the confidence that they generate amongst themselves. But I still am of the view that there is no intrinsic value and there is no underlying value to it, which doesn't mean to say that there is no hype created as a result that some can associate with a value, meaning a price, which then moves up and down depending on what happens, who is instrumenting all this. By the way, I'm not thinking the same thing about stable coins. Okay, I regard that as a completely separate category of digital instrument. Okay.
Stable coins are
My
good,
God.
everybody. Stable coins are good. Bitcoin is bad. That's what I've learned.
Somebody said something here. There was a really great comment. Where is it? Oh, they leave the cost of housing out of the inflation charts, so they lie. They
Yeah.
basically just do whatever they can to make things work in their favor.
100%.
It's like
CPI
the whole
is all
system.
adjusted. CPI is adjusted. They take out steak, they put in ground beef, they take out bacon and eggs, they put in cereal. It's they get rid of a lot of the volatile like things in there. So like they don't account for gas prices and stuff, which is an input for every single thing and is the leading cause of a lot of costs going up, right? Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah, she says like, it's not backed by anything.
That's what I was going to say. Like,
yeah.
maybe we should dive into that a little bit, because
I think
that
so
is
too.
probably the most mainstream argument that people have, is that it's not backed by anything. So when people say that, like, what's a good response to that? Just so people, and just let me pause here for a second, and sit on like that pause. But my question is, how would you respond to that when somebody says there's no intrinsic value of Bitcoin? And one thing I would recommend here is people either, get out your phone, get out a piece of paper. I'm not saying we're going to have the right answer, but we might have something that when somebody asks you that same question in the future, or brings up that point to you in the future, you have to be equipped with this kind of stuff. Otherwise, they're just going to think that you know nothing, and they're going to continue on. Whereas that's an actual opportunity, I feel like, when you're kind of in that moment and somebody asks you that and you can actually have a legitimate answer for them. I think it's important. So what's your answer to that?
You go ahead, Rajat. I can take it after.
Oh, I was going to say, just ask them what intrinsic value means, because they probably won't even have an answer for that.
That's true.
Most people don't even know what intrinsic value means. They just say it because they hear somebody else saying it.
I think that the intrinsic value aspect of Bitcoin, to me anyways, is that when you just kind of have to think about Bitcoin isn't really backed by anything. Bitcoin is the thing that backs everything else. And when you say that, maybe people might not understand that, but Bitcoin is the thing that's going to back everything. So if the US government were to come out with a currency tomorrow, a new medium of exchange, and instead of continuing the fiat road, they're going to say, hey, this is actually going to be backed by Bitcoin, or it's going to be backed by gold, or it's going to be backed by energy, or maybe a combination of the three. Bitcoin is what backs things because it brings truth to the digital world that we live in. It brings a fair, open, transparent, immutable ledger of all the transactions that have ever happened in history before that nobody can control, that there's a fixed supply of, that actually takes physical energy from the world that we live in and puts it in a digital form because you need energy or value to get any Bitcoin in return. And it's actually going to be the thing that backs other things. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my answer to this question of what is Bitcoin backed by, it's a really big conversation.
Yeah.
It's a long conversation. It gets nuanced. It goes into, explain, like defining, the intrinsic value, all these things. Like you have to reframe your definitions of what all these things are. So there's no quick answer to this when somebody asks that, what is Bitcoin backed by? But if somebody's technical, if you're good to get in the conversation, I would just say, what do we value in this world right now? We value data, compute, energy. That the Bitcoin network is the largest computing network in the world. It's the biggest computer network in the world,
And the most secure.
The most secure and backed by the most amount of energy that is enforcing the consensus rules of Bitcoin. And those consensus rules are incredibly valuable. The fact that there's a limited supply, which is unlike any other money, right? You have to, if you begin to understand that Bitcoin is money, then you have to start valuing, okay, well, what makes good money? And you start looking at Bitcoin, you say, okay, you can transport it, it's recognizable, it's divisible, it's protected by the most secure network in the world, and nobody controls it. And it's controlled by everybody that uses it in a real sense. And that is what provides that's what backs it, right? It's all of these little things that backs it. And the fact that nobody can make more of it. And the fact that if somebody does fork off Bitcoin, that it's incompatible with Bitcoin. So they didn't make more of it. They made something completely different than Bitcoin. So that's a huge conversation. You can go into each one of those points for an hour plus, right? So, and there's been a bunch of people in the chat as well saying these exact points that I've talked about. Each one of these could be what you bring to somebody that says, what is Bitcoin backed by? But ultimately, that's what I would begin to explain.
Would you guys also say that it's backed by faith, that it can't be debased?
It is backed
faith,
it's backed by faith initially
math?
because of because of maybe the lack of understanding you might have in the network. But it is backed by math and the system that's been built.
But technically, I mean, in theory, if everybody agrees that, okay, we're going to double the supply, if everybody agrees to that, then it will happen, right? I'm not saying that it will, but I'm saying that if everybody does agree to that, then it will happen. So what I mean is,
the system's built on incentives though. So like, even though that's technically possible, the system is what backs it. So the system is everybody having the incentive to not do that. So
but that's technically, even that's faith, right? We believe that won't happen. And I genuinely believe that there are enough people out there who are running nodes, who own Bitcoin, who don't want to be debased, who don't want their Bitcoin stolen from them. But I think that in theory, it could happen. I don't think it will.
Yeah.
But in theory, it could, right?
Yep.
And I think that the belief that we actually believe that we need to have a form of money that can't be debased. And I feel like that's what holds it together. Because with gold, let's say, for example, with gold, we can believe whatever we want. But if somebody finds a store of gold somewhere in the earth, that gold is going to exist no matter what, and nobody can change that, right? But with Bitcoin, we have the choice to increase the supply if we want to, or if people don't want to, then it won't increase.
It's a great point, because that's one thing that I've kind of come to the realization of myself, is that Bitcoin is unstoppable for a lot of different reasons, but I think Bitcoin's unstoppable mainly because of faith, mainly because people are now awake to the fact of how corrupt that system is, what a fiat dollar is. Like they managed to keep that whole thing under wraps for like 100 years.
Yeah.
Like there was a very fringe community of people who were like, protesting Wall Street and these different things along the way. But like for the most part, even when they changed it from, the US gold holding gold only versus everybody else, and then to taking everybody off the gold standard, and then from printing, money into oblivion, it wasn't really until these last 5 years, I would say, maybe a little bit more than that, but where people actually understood what the fiat dollar is, what the problems with that is, what the Federal Reserve is, what the problem with centralized banking. And now I feel like even if something were to happen to Bitcoin, everybody who's here right now, we're not going to that old system ever again. Like, it's not like we're just going to give up and say, okay, well, we did our best, we're going to go back and start saving in fiat again. Like something new would emerge. And so in that case, I agree with you, Rajat, that it is kind of backed by human psychology, by faith, by people being awake to how corrupt the world was before Bitcoin. And the future that everybody envisions now is much different than that. And, it is open source. So if something did, whether it's core or not, or something happens with that, a new thing would pop up, but you'd have the same army of people who are all fighting that same war. That'll never change.
Yeah. So faith is essentially like trust in something that you can't control, right?
Okay.
And no individual can control Bitcoin, right? You have faith in people have faith in the dollar, but they can't control how much dollars are being printed, right? So no one person. So Bitcoin is not trustless. I will say that it's trust minimized. They've done as much as they can to minimize the need for trust. You can do a peer-to-peer transaction and not know the other person on the side and have no need to trust them. So there's trust has been taken out, and faith that the system will work is all the way to a minimum. But you still have to believe that these UTXOs have value, and so does everybody else that will accept them, right? So there's still a level of belief or faith or trust that these things are going to continue existing as they exist. It can't be completely taken out, because that's part of, like, we as humans, like, that's the only way to have something that doesn't, like, it's the only way to get away from direct barter and into a form of money, is to have some belief that this thing can store its value over time, which requires faith in the system.
And faith and understanding, I would say.
Yeah.
Understanding is a big one, because if you don't understand it, you're not going to have faith in it. If you don't understand the properties of what gives Bitcoin its value, you won't have any faith in it. You have to have that underlying understanding of Bitcoin and what gives it value before you can have faith in people using it, people accepting it, the supply never changing. You have to understand why that is before you can have faith in it. I think understanding actually comes before faith.
Yeah. And I think that's why a lot of people will see Bitcoin, understand some aspect of it, and then just say, oh, this thing's worth nothing, I'm not going to buy any, it's worth nothing. And then they're hit with the reality of, if it's worth nothing, then why does it cost this amount of dollars to get some, right? And
my favorite meme.
Send me some. If it's worth nothing, then send me some, right? The reality is different than what people's understanding or like than what people's beliefs are, right? So yeah, I think it is a combination, but ultimately there ends up being a faith in anything. Like, you have to have, I mean, I have to have faith that I exist, right? I have to believe that I exist. There's all sorts of different things that come down ultimately to faith. But what would you rather believe in, right? What would you rather believe in? A network that can't be controlled, that is backed by energy, that can't be debased, that has a max supply, that with all the incentives to keep that max supply, the 21 million cap, right? All of the incentives build the system. I'd way rather have faith in that than Christine Lagarde, who says that it has no intrinsic value. Look, I got the euro down to 2% inflation, right? I have no trust, no faith, no belief in that system, because it's so easy and transparently, a scam to anybody that participates in it that isn't directly connected to the banking system. So ultimately, faith exists in almost everything we do to some degree.
I think one of the reasons why the legacy financial system, people in the legacy financial system talk a lot about intrinsic value is, I think it's because they want to make sure that what we value today remains of value, right? So let's say, for example, stocks, real estate, bonds, everything that we have today. On a Bitcoin standard, it may not have the same value that it has today, right? And I think this is part of them just convincing us that, yeah, we need to keep valuing these things, because if we don't, then the world is going to go crazy, right?
Yeah.
And I think part of what she was saying there is, oh, it's not backed by anything. What's real estate backed by? What's your house backed by? Your house isn't backed by anything. Your house has a use. You can use it. You can use it for shelter. But it's the same thing with Bitcoin. You can use your Bitcoin to buy things if you want to. Today, people might say, "Oh, but I can't use it to buy things. I can't pay for a coffee with it." Like, that's the most idiotic thing you can say. I can exchange my Bitcoin for dollars, and I can use those dollars to buy the coffee.
Yeah.
I can't use my house to buy a coffee either. And, like, you can't tear a brick off your house and exchange it for coffee, right? These are the kinds of stupid things that people say when they want you to believe what they have to say. But what you were saying there, it's just, it doesn't really make any sense. I feel like they want to make sure that the wealthy stay wealthy, because and she supports stable coins because she knows that with stable coins, with euros, the currency stays separate from the store of value. So the medium of exchange stays separate from the store of value. And I think that's the goal here. The goal here is to make sure that we separate the functions of money. We separate the medium of exchange and a store of medium of exchange and a unit of account function from the store of value function. And we want to keep the store of value function separate. We want to keep it in stocks. We want to keep it in real estate, because the wealthy own those things. And the wealthy can go to banks, and her bank, of course, her bank makes money from the wealthy people going to her bank and getting more euros created out of thin air. They create the product. Why wouldn't they defend it? Right. And that's why they're scared of it. Because let's say Blockbuster didn't say, oh, yeah, Netflix is going to do great. They were probably saying, oh, yeah, digital movies have no intrinsic value, right? I want physical. I want my DVD player. I want my VHS player. That's probably what they were thinking too, right? But that's not how the world works. The world goes to whatever is the best thing with with Bitcoin. There are so many things about it. Jor, if you want to share that chart, I feel like that would be perfect here, right? Because you can compare gold with fiat and with do you want to share the one that you showed first, and then we can show ours after?
Yeah. One thing about Lagarde, it's her job to defend the euro. Like, it's her job to be a publicly facing figure. Like, she's not the one crunching the numbers, figuring out the CPI reports. There's other PhDs that are doing that for the Bank of Europe, or whatever, the European Union Bank. I don't even know what it's called. It's her job to come out there and pretend that the euro is a store of value. Like, that's exactly what you said there. There's a separation of those two things, but they're basically trying to trick people into believing that you can save in the euro, that you can also use it as a store of value, so they can strip that value out of it, right? And then extend all of the people that invest in assets. They can bolster those up by extracting the value out of the currency itself. Bitcoin, as you said, like, the store of value function is so important for Bitcoin. Like, money without a store of value function is the medium of exchange can be, like, again, dollars are a great medium of exchange. They're a terrible money. There's Bitcoin can be used as both. And the fact that it can be used for both means that it will eventually be used as both, but only because it continues to be a great store of value because of the intrinsic way that it's built. Intrinsic. Are you able to bring that chart up?
Yeah, before I bring the chart up, we got a couple different shout outs here. So number one, Cedar Sats sent in 8,999 sats. I guess you wanted to be one sat less than Letha. So thank you, Cedar Sats. That's a fatty for today. We had 373 from a random individual, a couple 111s. I believe that would be from Samantha. Somebody sent in 737, which I believe is also Cedar Sats. That's his new Zap. He's got 737. 3690. Nice. Fat Tesla Zap from Alexandra over in Germany. And we got 888 from Pauly D. Rajat has disappeared on the boys.
Nice.
But big thanks, everybody there. What happened here? What's this?
Cedar Sats also commented about Maple lifetime school membership. So I just put that in our private chat so we could address it afterwards.
Good call. I got to send Cedar a couple things, so I'll do that right after the show today.
Perfect.
Okay, so this here's the chart. So this is when we started the show today, Rajat Forrest and I, we were talking about gold and Bitcoin. And I was like, you guys, let's talk about this chart that I found on Google. I love this chart. This is pretty clear, I think, for anybody with a couple brain cells up in their noggin there. But it just shows, it compares gold, Bitcoin, fiat currency. It talks about the durability, the divisibility, fungibility, portability, verifiability, scarcity, and the track record of all three of them.
So those are all the aspects that make money sound. Basically, every single one of those. You need to have every single one of those for money to be really good, to work really well. To some degree, right? Like they need to be, and there's the degree of variability within all of these. But yeah, if you were to explain currency to somebody, what makes good money, hitting a plus on every single one of these would be good money.
I think one of the important things here is that each of these functions, each of these features or each of these characteristics helps your money to fulfill the functions of money.
Yes.
So let's say, for example, you have durability. If you don't have durability, you can't use your money as a store of value. If you don't have divisibility, you can't use your money as a medium of exchange. If you don't have fungibility, you can't use it as a medium of exchange or a unit of account. If you don't have portability, you can't use it as a medium of exchange. You can still use it as a store of value because let's say there are other things, let's say stocks, you can't really move them around, but you can use them as a store of value. The goal here is to have a balance of all of them. That balance is the key. Some people will tell you, oh, it's not fast enough because I can't transact in 2 seconds. And they'll show you some random shitcoin. But that shitcoin probably isn't as scarce, or it doesn't have the same track record as Bitcoin, or maybe it's not as verifiable. Maybe it's not as saleable.
Yeah. These all add up to the value of it as money to some degree, and they all have they affect the store of value function or the medium of exchange function to some degree, and even like there's also like recognizability is the other one that's kind of not on here, but that's also like a unit of account. I mean, it's all there's different things that make up the value of money, which are all these characteristics. Yeah.
One of the things that I think is really important to take away here is that because gold isn't divisible or portable, we were brainwashed into believing fiat currencies are real money.
Yeah, they tricked us, and they tricked us with saying, hey, you can redeem this paper money. Like, it wasn't like all of a sudden there was government issued bills that were denominated in its own denominator. And it was gold certificates that were stored in a vault, and the paper certificates were redeemable for that gold. So it was 1 ounce or 1 pound or whatever, right? Kilogram, whatever it is. That was what currency, that's what paper fiat currency was built off of. It was the paperization and tokenization into paper of gold. So gold failed as a medium of exchange and therefore cannot be money.
I think the couple main takeaways for me on this is, number one, the only thing that Bitcoin loses to gold is track record. Gold's been around for hundreds of thousands, millions of years. Bitcoin's been around for 16. So, I mean, it's kind of impossible, it's impossible for Bitcoin to do something to get up to there. It's just time. But the other thing too, is that the big one that stood out to me is the scarcity. So both gold and Bitcoin have this scarce green, but in my opinion, and on Rajat's chart, this is the case. Gold should not be green. It was the most scarce asset before Bitcoin. But there's a big difference between something that's kind of scarce or pretty scarce, like gold, and something that's absolutely scarce, like Bitcoin.
Yeah, gold has been increasing in the amount of flow, like the annual production of gold, roughly 1 to 3% for a very long time. So that's relative to the amount of gold that's already been extracted. So that's increasing the amount over time. That 2% is relative to the amount of gold that's already been extracted, right? And yeah, so 1 to 3%. So I just averaged it too. But something that has a max supply of 21 million, after 21 million Bitcoin is released, there's no increased amount of Bitcoin, but gold continues to increase after that. And we can assume, based on history of it staying within that range, that it will continue into the future as well. And and the difference between the difference between increasing a little bit every year and increasing none is it's there's no compare. It's like the invention of zero, right? There's no comparison. Yeah, one thing will just get debased until forever, and the other thing doesn't. It's a binary thing.
It's like saying that Bitcoin is going to have a tail emission.
Yeah, it is, and yeah, I mean, it's just it's crazy how different that is, and that function alone, if Bitcoin is more valuable in its scarcity, again, that's a value proposition of that characteristic towards Bitcoin and against gold. And the track record of gold being a store of value, right, is a positive here. But if it fails as a store of value, right, it's failed as a medium of exchange. Bitcoin is a better store of value. If gold fails as a store of value, then that's a big blemish on that track record. So even though it's had thousands of years of being a store of value, if it gets a blemish in the store of value function, then Bitcoin could take that from it as well and continue to actually have a better track record going into the future.
Great point. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really think about that because I just assumed that Bitcoin would always kind of lag behind gold in terms of track record. But you're right. If it actually turns out to be a better store of value than gold, then that's over. The track record of gold being the best store of value is over. And I would argue that we're kind of there already, although the world hasn't figured it out. That doesn't mean that anybody's wrong about that. It just means that most people are a little bit slower to the party here. But when we look at something like this, and I'm going to bring up Rajat's chart, which I think is a lot better than this one. But when we look at this and we think, okay, well, we can see provably here, without a doubt, objectively, that gold is far superior to, or Bitcoin is far superior to gold. And don't get me wrong here. I'm not shitting on gold. Gold's done its job. It's ripping right now. And big shout out to all the gold holders out there. But it just doesn't fit with the world that we're moving into now. It doesn't have the same properties that are going to be needed in the world that we're moving into here. And if you say, okay, well, they're not only not equal, but Bitcoin's far superior. And Bitcoin's 1/10 of the market cap of gold today. 1/10 of the market cap, which means that either gold is extremely overvalued, which I don't think is the case, or Bitcoin is extremely undervalued, which I would say that that's a lot more accurate there.
Yeah, and gold failed. I said gold failed as a medium of exchange, and the consequence of that was centralization and control. And when that happens, there's the ability to basically like skew things, mess things around without people knowing. When there's an organization that controls it, they can pretend to have it, right? So even though gold's catching a bid, nothing is improved about gold. Like gold is exactly the same as it always has been, which is what people think is valuable about it. But that means it's going to fail in the exact same ways that it did before. So it's not magically going to get fixed from that. Like you need a fix to the problem of portability and of gold, and there just isn't one. So
and verifiability too, I think, is a big one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, verifiability.
Being able to verify the fact that you actually own the gold that you have a claim to, if you have a certificate or something like that. Yeah, you might be able to walk down to the bank and they might take you to the room to show you the ounce of gold is there. But like, how many other people have they showed that exact same ounce of gold to, right?
And it comes down to even holding physical gold. Like this isn't real gold. This is just a thing like this, but it sure looks like gold.
Yeah.
It's heavy. It's heavy like gold. Maybe I could convince somebody it's gold, right?
You could probably convince somebody that's physical Bitcoin.
Yeah,
probably. Yeah, that's true.
I have one too, by the way. Look.
Nice. Sick.
I need one, boys.
Mine's a Mine's a Bitcoin well one. I got it from the conference I went to.
I got it from a conference too. Mine is a little different. Are they the same thing on the back?
No, different.
Oh, they're different. Okay.
I have one of those as well, but I took it out of the case and it went silver. Which is, so check it out. Like this is the same one as this, but
George showing.
Nice silver dollar.
It's from 1971 too.
That's so sick,
dude. My Bitcoin went from gold to silver, which is just again evidence that your gold might not be gold. It could be tungsten wrapped gold, right? Yeah. It's hard to verify even the physical aspect of gold.
Yeah.
Funny, we have all three of us have those coins like within reaching distance.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to mention there are so many things that people compare Bitcoin to. They compare it to the US dollar, of course, to gold. But I have a huge list of things. So we can look at tulip bulbs for all the characteristics of money. People will constantly tell you, oh, tulip bulbs are better than Bitcoin. It's the tulip bulb phase, whatever they say. Yeah. And they say trading cards. So trading cards are definitely not better than Bitcoin. So I should actually freeze Bitcoin there so people can see it. But Bitcoin is almost high on everything. Trading cards really aren't. Artwork, same thing. It's low on pretty much everything. Real estate is better than a lot of the other things, but it's not the best either. It's nothing compared to gold, compared to Bitcoin. Even gold, actually. Stocks, terrible. Just like real estate, very similar to real estate. Beanie Babies. This is one that the stupidest of the stupid say. Like who's one person that said Dave Ramsey.
Mm-hmm.
He constantly says Bitcoin is like Beanie Babies, the digital Beanie Babies. That kind of pisses me off sometimes. But next one, luxury watches. This is one that I would actually say is a better comparison than most of the other ones. Like Beanie Babies aren't really anything. Some of the Beanie Babies are scarce, but I put in some notes here as well. If you wanted to use Beanie Babies as money, you'd have to tear them apart. Right. So
yeah, not very divisible.
Right. Exactly. And then we have bonds. Bonds are terrible at almost everything, and they're not scarce. That's one of the most important things, right? So every one of these things, the only hard assets here are Bitcoin and gold. Everything else is low on scarcity, or it doesn't have the right balance of all the other characteristics. So almost nothing is portable. You can see that almost nothing is portable there. Oh, nothing is portable. Everything else is on low. The only things that are portable are Bitcoin, US dollars, and gold. Even gold and US dollars are moderate compared to Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Bitcoin's built for the digital age. It's highly portable. The other thing I would say just there about like Beanie Babies and watches is the scarcity you have for moderate and high there. It's an artificial scarcity that's built from the issuer. So if those issuers, and same with Labubus, there we go. Same with but you get the gambling aspect with Labubus. There's a benefit there. We got to have a chart for gambling. But the other thing too is like, trading cards, right? There's pieces of cardboard. There's no real value to it. The scarcity, the limited supply, that can change if the issuer decides that there's a profitability of changing that. Skins in games. People might think about that as trading cards as well. The creators of those games have an incentive to sell those skins and not just have reselling going on as well. So eventually, at any point, a new release of those could happen, and it could be indistinguishable from the original release of those. It doesn't matter when you get the skin or the trading card. Maybe the trading cards would have a different editions or something, but even still, it would dilute the supply potentially of some of those things, and definitely so with luxury watches and things like that.
I just actually found out what Labubus were. Is it Labubus or Labubas? I just saw that yesterday on my Snapchat. I saw the Nelk boys were over in Japan, and they were going through a store that had those, and the guy was chirping them because they look like Beanie Babies essentially.
Yep.
So it's interesting. They must be catching on. But Forrest, kind of what you were saying there is, I got a picture right. I was going to grab it, but I can just show it from here. But it's a picture of Tiger Woods, and it's from Upper Deck, so it's legitimate, I think. And it has, I think it's out of 100. It's autographed by Tiger, so a photo that they issued. But for me, in that case, is like, okay, let's say I have number 9 out of 100. How do I know that Upper Deck didn't put 9 out of 100 5 or 10 times, and there's somebody else on the planet who has number 9 out of 100 too. Like, yeah, I believe it, but I don't know for sure. There's no way for me to verify that.
Takes a lot of faith.
Yeah.
Takes a lot of faith. Yeah.
Rajesh just going to town here with this spreadsheet. So what do we have in here
Thanks,
now?
Patty.
Birkin bag,
There you go.
crypto or altcoins. I like the
also
altcoins
added-
though. That's a good one.
I added Labubus too,
And Labubus.
Same as Beanie Babies. Yeah. Basically the same thing.
and Birkin bags. Birkin bags are, I think Birkin bags are better than a lot of other things.
That'd be like a luxury watch, kind of same idea.
I would say similar. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to go through this again just to make sure that everything actually makes sense.
Well, just focus on this page right now, Rajat, like with these four, because I
These
feel
four,
like
yeah.
everything else is kind of, laughable.
Everything else is a joke. Yeah.
Yeah. So the altcoins there: fungible, high; portable, high; durable. Why is altcoins moderate compared to Bitcoin being high for durability?
I would say because there's not enough faith in them and not enough people own them, so they could fall apart pretty quickly. They could get rug pulled very easily.
I think the US dollar needs to be low on that durability too. It's on high, right?
So
'Cause
with
that's
the
a
US
store of
dollar,
value function.
so there's a couple of things that I thought for durability with the US dollar. So let's say, for example, with maybe I put this one wrong. So the US dollar, the way that I see it, it can't be physically destroyed. I mean, it can be physically destroyed, but if you go to a bank, you can tell, like if you tear it in half, you can go to the bank and they'll give you another one.
Yeah, but it's being destroyed by the creation of more of them.
That would be scarcity.
Oh, scarcity. Okay.
Okay,
So durability is more of like a sense of like,
guess
is
this
it
would be high.
destructible?
Because you can't really destroy an
Okay.
altcoin. I guess the people who create them, they can destroy it, like they can just turn it off, right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like because it's not decentralized in the way that Bitcoin is. I would
Yeah.
say that it is actually low on the durability because if there's a CEO, there's somebody you can pull the plug. That means that at any time they could go to zero, destroyed.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it depends on the project, right? If it is open source, one person could continue to run whatever the validator or node is, and yeah, it's going to go to zero, but technically it still exists.
Pulling the plug maybe wasn't the right. I guess that kind of goes back to scarcity too. I was going to say they could increase the supply or change something that has a really negative impact on it. They have the ability to do that. Like if they had an update that had a big bug in it where something happened, you know what I mean? Then it would pretty much lose all. It would be destroyed in that sense.
That's true. Yeah. There could be a bug, catastrophic bug failure in an altcoin for sure. Whereas
with Bitcoin, the one thing we're noticing right now is like even if there was a bug that was pushed into core version 30 as an example, the majority of people still wouldn't be affected by it because most people are very slow to update that. So I don't know what that would look like in terms of if you're like a validator node on a crypto. I just don't know enough about that, if there's automatic updates or if it gets pushed through automatically. But Bitcoin is very slow by design for that reason, that there would be never a bug that just gets quietly pushed out to everybody. It's a much more rigorous process, I think, to do that, which makes it more durable.
Yeah.
What's this? Is this you, Rajat?
I sent it in the chat.
Birkin bag.
Why did it say it's because it split it. That's why. Somebody asked what is a Birkin bag, and I just wanted to send a link.
Dude, that's my Bitcoin private key you just shared there.
So it's a huge link. I don't know why I don't know why it separated the words, but I'll just send I'll send a link for the actual bag. They're like $30,000 bags, by the way. Like these things are mad expensive. Like people collect them.
Oh yeah.
Right. Sure. There's 40. Like I see one here for 47,000. I see one here for 55,000. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I have an interesting thing I want to discuss here quickly. I see Cedar Satz's comment here. I hate putting Forrest out of screen here, so I'm going to
whatever.
But Cedar Satz basically says, I have a pretty collection of snowboards though that I'll probably keep forever. A lot of good memories and good trips with those things. So that would be like an example of something that's just more meaningful to somebody, like sentimental. And one thing that I've done my best. I know it's difficult to do this, but one thing I've kind of talked about myself is like just take a picture of those snowboards, because when you look at one of those snowboards, It's not like you're going to take it out on the slopes, cedar sats, and like go for a rip with it, and that's going to bring you the feeling. But if you just have a picture of it, and you can maybe even put it in a photo album or something where you can see it, and then you're going to get the exact same feeling by looking at a picture of it to recall all those memories that you had, as you would just by looking at it collecting dust in the corner.
That is possible. Yeah, I agree with that to some respect. I mean, there might be exceptions, tactile feels or something like that, but I think for the most part, you get a huge percentage of your nostalgic feel from just a photo. I think you're probably bang on with that.
Just looking at it, like
just looking at it,
it would bring back the exact same memory. I think if you just looked at a picture of it, you would feel that same sensation. It's almost like when you hear a song 10 years later, it kind of brings you back to that point. Or when you smell something, it takes you back to that. Those things are just so cool to me how that happens. But I just feel like, if you're somebody out there, and this isn't really directed towards cedar sats, but if you're somebody out there who has things like that and you're trying to increase your stack of Bitcoin, that's a really easy trick to do, is just take a picture of it, sell it, and you're going to get the exact same like sentimental feeling from it.
Yeah. Guys, we only got about 12 minutes here before we got to go to the happy hour on our school, and we got a lot of super chats as well that we have not got to. Should we hit some
what a chat today, boys. Wow.
Yeah.
Really good.
We were actually talking about our school thing the other day, and I didn't realize that we've already done like 10 happy hours. I thought we'd done like 3 so far. What was it, 10 or 11?
11, I think. This will be our 12th today.
Oh, look at this. Oh, Rajat's been working behind the scenes here.
That's cool.
So this is a QR code to our Maple Bitcoin school community. And I don't know the exact number yet, but we are going to start. We got a couple different ideas in the works right now. We're not going to give too much away, but we just want to give kind of a little bit of a warning or a heads up to people, because as we do more and more of these shows, happy hours, the things we're about to announce soon, we're going to start raising the price of it. So it's like $27 a month, I think, which is kind of a joke almost. I think the average on school is $50 per month. And there's a shitload of stuff in there for you. Not just the community aspect of it, the 3 of us, everybody else, but content. There's a lot of exclusive content in there. So if you're looking to learn and kind of grow your conviction, grow your rounding around Bitcoin, you can go there. And every week after the show, we do a happy hour with the community. So thanks for bringing that up there, Rajat. Should we get to some of these super chats?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I had some starred questions here, but we're not going to have time for those today, unfortunately. But King says, Bitcoin is backed by the security of the network. There will never be more than 21 million. And as long as people use the network, that will never change. And that was King. King sent a couple here. And wow, follow up. And if there will never be more than 21 million, it cannot be debased, which means your energy will not be stolen from you, which means it's worth it. Great points.
Yep.
Great points. DJ says best, safest platform to buy Bitcoin on. I wanted to highlight this. Forrest and I both, we don't work, we're not sponsored by Bitcoin Well, but we have a pretty good relationship with them. So that's who we, speaking for myself and Forrest here, of course, that's what we would recommend here in Canada. You can also use them in the US. And I love River personally. I have kind of an account. I can't buy Bitcoin with River, but I just love the fact that they have proof of reserves, which is a big one, I think, if you plan on leaving your Bitcoin on the exchange, having proof of reserves there. So we usually have links in the show notes here. I'll make sure after the show here that I put some links in there for anybody who is looking to either, buy their first amount of sats, which I doubt, or just like upgrade their exchange from Coinbase or Kraken to something that's a little bit more Bitcoin friendly.
The majority of exchanges are going to be safe for a temporary place to buy Bitcoin and store it and then transfer it to your self-custody. I think one risk that people often have an oversight on is just the fact that these exchanges go down for maintenance or their servers fail exactly when you need them, right? Yeah. Like when there's the most activity on them is the most likely that they're going to fail. And that's probably when you're going to want to be on there as well, buying the dip or whatever it is. So signing up for a couple of them is a really good idea. Finding the ones that you like the best, decent fees. Bitcoin Well, I love because it's the most direct way to actually get Bitcoin. They don't hold your Bitcoin for you. You send them dollars. They send you Bitcoin directly to cold storage. So it's like you're skipping a step of them holding your Bitcoin. which is the risk, right? So you're getting rid of a risk factor there by not allowing them to actually hold your Bitcoin for you. So it's a little bit safer, but that's maybe marginal. For the vast majority of exchanges will be safe to temporarily hold Bitcoin on. Emphasis on the temporary, because that risk goes up the longer you hold it on an exchange.
Great point. Yep. And I would say that the other thing too, if you're somebody who is in the US and you're maybe not comfortable with holding your own keys yet, I don't think that should detract you from buying Bitcoin. I think that that's where something like River comes into play, where River's an exchange where you could actually hold your Bitcoin. They could hold it for you. And I like the fact that they have proof of reserves. That makes me feel a little bit better, recommending them. But then the thing is, you could just buy it. You could get the price exposure to Bitcoin. You don't really own the Bitcoin yet until you get it off the exchange. But I would feel good recommending them to store it for you in the meantime.
Yep. And that's a degree of safety, having that proof of reserves, right? The Lindy effect comes into play. Are they are they a public company, private company? Are they offshore, onshore? All of these things should be evaluated. Do they have a track record of people trusting them? I would not, sign up for an exchange, even if it's the second biggest one, if it's out of the Bahamas, because the last people that did that are still waiting on their Bitcoin, I believe, or they got it back at the price of when it went bankrupt, which was like 30,000. So you do not want to trust people that do that.
Yeah.
Nav sent in $2. Thank you, Nav. And he said Euro is only 10 years older than Bitcoin. I didn't even realize that myself, honestly. That's a good point.
I never thought about that, but that's so funny.
And Nav's got a question here. Says, I'm concerned on price suppression by paper Bitcoin and other ways by exchanges and BlackRock. This is how gold's price is manipulated and suppressed. Thoughts? I think from my perspective with price suppression, like I am a believer in that. It's a little bit of a controversial subject, but I do believe that there's a lot of manipulation happening right now, a lot of paper Bitcoin floating around out there. But my thoughts on it is like it's going to be a temporary thing. I think that anybody who's trying to manipulate Bitcoin or short Bitcoin or fake Bitcoin, it's going to get washed out. And that's exactly what happened with FTX. They kind of danced around that for a very long time. They fooled people for a very long time. But eventually, the way Bitcoin is by design, you can't fake it forever. And I feel like as it becomes more and more ingrained in society, there's going to be a requirement from people using these exchanges, people investing in these companies that hold Bitcoin. There's going to be a requirement that they actually show proof of reserves that they have that Bitcoin. And then you can start doing some simple math on a spreadsheet and say, okay, Strategy's got 800,000 coins. BlackRock has this. Add it up to 21 million. If it's more than that, somebody's lying here. And then it's going to be, it might take a while to get there, but I do think that it will eventually be flushed out. And you can't do that with gold either. That's a good point.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, there is some like known about paper Bitcoin with futures, like people can get price exposure but it's not actually like real Bitcoin. And that sort of has effects on prices and things. But yeah, the paper Bitcoin that we don't know about is kind of more so the problem. And eventually it gets weeded out. It just cannot exist in this system where everything is verifiable, everything is public. It's like a magnet, right? The public verifiableness of Bitcoin, it's like an elastic wanting to come back to its natural non-tension state. The Bitcoin wants to be verified, Bitcoin wants to be seen, and eventually when that happens, the people that don't have it get left out. What is the saying? Like, it's like when the tide goes out or whatever, you see the shore. I don't know.
You see you standing there without clothes on.
Exactly. Yes, that's it.
At some point, all that leverage is going to get wiped out. That's the key. I think that's what we all want to. I think that's the basis of all of this. So at some point, everybody who has created paper Bitcoin is going to be everything that they're doing, just like FTX, just like Celsius, just like BlockFi, all that stuff it becomes apparent over time. It takes time, but eventually it will. I think in general, the timeline that the timeline is probably around 4 years, and that's why we see these dips in between, right? During every euphoric period, there's going to be some idiot who's creating paper Bitcoin, just like Nav said, just like Nav said. There's going to be somebody who's creating paper Bitcoin. There's always going to be somebody who thinks that they're better than the market. They think that they're smarter than the market. That's what that washout is. So when Bitcoin drops, let's say, I mean, I don't know. I used to believe that, okay, there's going to continue to be wipeouts like this. There's going to continue to be Bitcoin drops of like 70, 80, 90%. But I don't know if that's going to happen anymore, because I think that the companies that are buying now are actually buying. They're not buying paper Bitcoin. They're buying real Bitcoin. And whenever their obligations are, whenever they have some kind of obligation that needs to be met, they'll be able to sell that Bitcoin to pay for that obligation. And I think Bitcoin has now probably joined the regular business cycle rather than having a cycle of its own.
Yeah, totally. And the other thing too is like paper Bitcoin might exist in these ways, but largely they're out of our control of like even being able to expose it or do anything about it. The only thing you can really do to make sure like the best effect you can have as an individual against paper Bitcoin is to take self-custody, because you have a claim to Bitcoin. That Bitcoin is in a big wallet somewhere mixed up with a bunch of other people's. There's some accounting ledger internally on that exchange saying, hey, this account has this much Bitcoin, and I don't even know if it's connected to a wallet anywhere, right? So it's all these internal, like there could be delays, and there could be paper Bitcoin for like temporarily within things. And I believe there's a delay even with like BlackRock, right? The IBIT and stuff, which is like allowed, like there's a certain amount of delay allowed and things. But yeah, so the most effect you can have against paper Bitcoin is taking self-custody and actually owning the keys to your coins. Because now you know, okay, I have 0.1 Bitcoin, and I have the keys to it. That's not paper Bitcoin. I've done my part as an individual.
Yeah, and if everybody did that, they'd have way less to manipulate with.
Exactly.
But it is it's a path. It's not an easy thing. You shouldn't just get into Bitcoin one day and secure it the next day. There's a learning curve, and you kind of have to go through it. You can't really rush or cheat, shortcut Bitcoin, but eventually it will all get flushed out. That's kind of my theory, anyways.
The number one mistake early Bitcoiners make is leaving their Bitcoin on exchange. The number two mistake is taking self-custody too soon and taking their coins off the exchange. So there's a sort of a parity there, or like a paradox, I guess. But it's just be ready to take self-custody.
Yes. Okay. Well, boys, it's been a slice. Rajat's not going to be here for the next couple weeks, so we'll say some well wishes to Rajat. He's headed to the Montreal Canadian Bitcoin Conference, right, Rajat?
That's the one.
Sign some more autographs, kiss some more babies. And I'm taking off right now. I got to go pick up my car before they close on a Friday. But so I won't be there for happy hour today. But I would highly encourage people to join these two today. It'll be Forrest and I in the next couple weeks. And you're also going to get access to all the happy hours that we've done so far. So if you really want to go ham and start taking in some Bitcoin content, it's some pretty high quality stuff in there, I would say. Where is that in there? Oh, there's the exclusive stuff. So those are some, what would we call those? Master classes.
And then we have the happy hour calls.
Wow.
11. We're on 12 today.
So you get access to all those. That's the only place you're going to find them. So you can show up for the chat. You can watch all those videos. You can go crazy. Yeah, it is Thanksgiving here. Good call there, King. But yeah, thanks, fellas. Thanks, everybody. If you're watching this later, or if you feel like getting some good karma on the way out, you can scan that QR code up there to send some sats to our Maple Bitcoin Reserve, or the Lightning address at the bottom there.
And I wanted to say one last thing. Are you guys okay with increasing the price at 200? Because I think that the current price is pretty low, and it's $27 a month, and we have 165 members. So the next 35 members get this $27 a month, and after that, we're going to increase the price.
Yeah, what's the average you said, George? Is like $50 a month on school is like the average or something? So
50.
Yeah. So yeah, we should increase it. I mean, we're providing a ton of value and more value every single week as we create more masterclasses, more exclusive content. Yeah.
And keep in mind, the one thing I would say is that even if we did raise the price in a month from now, everybody who's locked in it, like there's people in the group right now who are paying $21 a month. So the cool thing about school is like once you lock in that price, that's your price forever. Even if we increase the price, it has zero impact on you. So I think it's important to note that. Most people probably wouldn't get that. Yeah. I'm seeing some comments here, watching out for deer. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Have yourselves an amazing weekend, especially if you're in Canada. Happy Thanksgiving. And thanks for all the love, the support. And we'll be back here next week for another Friday. Thanks, fellas.
See you guys.